Patiesas prieks jūs visus šodien redzēt šeit pie mums ciemos, jo šodien patiesībā ESPA Rīga ir īpaša diena. Tas ir ne tikai tāpēc, ka pie mums ir ievadies mīļš un ilgi gaidīts ciemiņš, bet arī tāpēc, ka mājas ir ESPA Rīga dzimšanas diena. Patiesībā grūti noticēt, ka pagājuši jau 8 gadi, kopš 2009. Gada maijā durvis vēra ESPA Rīga spā centrs. Tāpēc man ir vēl jau lielāks prieks jūs šodien iepazīstināt ar cilvēku, pateicoties kuram lielā mērā šis projekts tika īstenots. Un tas ir neviens cits kā ESPA zīmola dibinātājs Harmsworth. Sjūzena ir ne tikai veiksmīga uzņēmēja, viena no ietekmīgākajām sievietēm spā industrijā pasaulē, bet viņa arī vienkārši fantastisks, spilgta un harizmātiska personība. Tāpēc es aicināšu Sjūzenu uz mūsu improvizētās skatuves, lai viņš šodien dalītos ar jums savā pieredzē un zināšanās. Lai mums visiem šodien jauka un interesanta pēcpusdiena. Paldies!
Thank you all very much, and thank you for coming. And I haven't a clue what she said. And you'll have to also excuse me because the lovely Air Baltic lost my luggage, so I'm in my clothes I travelled in. So if I'm a little bit casual, I'm so sorry. I thought today we'd also, as well as me talking a little bit about mindfulness and sleep and all the issues that are very trending at the moment worldwide, I would tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about the company. I know many of you are regulars and clients, and so I'm happy to answer any questions you've got. But maybe I'm 72 years old and I'm 45 years in the industry. I've been in the spa industry before the word spa even existed. I'm a member of the Global Wellness Summit Board, which is the global organization for wellness. And ESPA is my baby and has been my life for 30 years now. It's our 25th anniversary this year. We have 600 spas in 60 countries, and we're considered the global leaders in spa, and we work with hotel brands like Peninsula Hotels, One and Only, Bulgari, Ritz-Carlton, Mandarin Oriental, all the best brands really. But I've always been very proud of the spa here. I think when the owners invested the millions of euros they did about 8 years ago, it was very brave and it was very visionary. And you have a great team here. And one of the things that you do have here that we often don't see around the world is you have consistency. You have a team of therapists who've been with you a long time and who've developed as individuals and developed their knowledge. So in my lifetime, I've seen the spa industry evolve and I've seen a lot of change. And when I started, hotels had pools and gyms. They didn't have spas. So it's really in the last 25 years that it's become so commonplace with hotels. But I have to say that, and Michael, you missed the bit where I was saying how much I love the spa at Riga, so I'm glad you arrived after that.
I know you do.
There are very many bad spas in the world, and it's because of training and because of the quality of the therapists. And one of the joys here is that the therapists, A, are very well qualified in anatomy and physiology, and B, they've had this consistency of training, so they keep getting better and better, which is fantastic, and fantastic for you as clients as well. But when I started out, there were a lot of beauty salons. There were a lot of clinical spas where people used to go for medical reasons, and it's almost gone full. Stress and relaxation were the most important issues. They were, in the 1980s, demographics were changing, women were going back into the workplace, cheaper travel allowed people to travel more around the world, and stress became an issue for women that hadn't been there before. So the stress of balancing the work and children and all of those things. So holistic treatments were very important at that point. And what I mean by holistic, I mean combining the mind and the body and the spirit for relaxation purposes. And then over the last few years, beauty has become much more important. And at the Global Wellness Summit, we're always discussing the difference between what is wellness, what is well-being, what is medical, and what is spa. And I think we've come to a point now where we've defined what works where. And in every culture, it's also different. So people will often say to me, well, what is wellness? And wellness to the Germanic countries means something quite medical, whereas wellness in America means lifestyle issues. So we're still defining those terminologies. So if I think of when I started in the spa industry, 1970, I was features editor of Vogue in London. And then in the early 80s, we had in England what we called health farms, which were a bit like the clinics and the Terame and the thalassotherapy centres and all of that sort of thing. So it means different things to different people, and every part of the world is at a different stage in its growth and its understanding. So I think it will take 10 years to really define what is wellness, what is well-being, what is medical, what is suitable, what is beauty, and so on. However, for us as a company, we feel we've already done that. So the next, if you like, trend now is definitely regarding inner beauty, how it reflects in your skin, mindfulness. And you know, I talk a lot about mindfulness at the moment because it's become a very topical issue. And I have 6 grandchildren ranging from 20 down to 6. So I'm watching them and studying them. And we have, so my terminology is sleep deprivation, mindfulness, anxiety, and resilience. And those are the 4 things that I think for this next few years we're going to have to address in the spa and wellness industry. And for me, hotel spas really can address well-being and lifestyle more than the medical side. Now, many spas have tried medical, they've tried mixing medical, they've tried having doctors, and that's a slightly different market. The clinics are growing in popularity, so destination clinics like the Lanzerhof and the Maya Clinic and Shiva Som and Varna, where people go for a minimum of 7 days, those are growing in popularity, and those are mostly doctor-led. And they are very good. And I think they're great when you've got issues or you've got time, because a lot of people, especially those with families, haven't got time to take 2 weeks out for themselves every year and just go and dedicate that time. So as far as the hotel spas, I think well-being is the thing that we can address well, which is much more about lifestyle. So what we're seeing and what we've studied is sleep deprivation is when you have broken sleep. Insomnia is we can't help in spas with. Insomnia is a psychological issue where you really need treatment. But sleep deprivation is the big issue at the moment. There's lots of reasons for it. One of the main ones is technology. So I can give you a few tips that we feel are really helping. It's quite common sense, really. But what we're getting is data from the medical world about brain waves and the changes from using technology constantly, especially children and teenagers. And a lot of that research is coming out of the States and China. And I work a lot with doctors, so we're getting some very, very good data. So sleep deprivation, the tips, and we have sleep programs and sleep treatments, but the tips are no technology in the bedroom at all, no television in the bedroom, no technology 2 hours before you go to sleep, no Kindles because it's blue light. Anything with blue light is going to tell your brain it's daylight. So your iPhone, your iPad, your computer, your Kindle are all telling you if you're using them in bed, okay, it's daylight now, I'm not going to sleep. Light exercise, not strong exercise. So again, 2 hours before you're going to sleep, walking, doing some housework, boring stuff like that, but not vigorous exercise. Vigorous exercise is too stimulating. I think we're all going to start reading books again, by the way, by the time all this data starts to circulate around. Keeping calm and not eating stimulating food. Now, there's a lot of data coming through now about gut health. Do you all know, do you read about gut health and the gut? So if the gut is healthy, the brain is going to be healthy. So we know now about the mitochondria in the gut, and a lot of that is overload of sugar in our diet that's happened over the last 30 years. So low fat, high sugar. We didn't know that, so people were getting fatter while they were still dieting. All sorts of issues like that. But the mitochondria in your brain is now matched to the mitochondria in your stomach. And I was doing a round table the other day with Oxford University where they've now found it's also the same bacteria on your skin. So the three are very linked. So if we are in the industry doing aggressive procedures, fillers, aggressive microdermabrasion, glycolic peels, lasers, we have to really think whether we're disturbing the balance of our skin. So it's all connected. And I think, you know, and this is data, this is scientific medical data, this isn't trend. You know, I think through my life, we've gone through a lot of trends where people go to extremes, extreme types of exercise, extreme types of diet. I think we're now coming full circle to much more moderation. And as far as all of those things are concerned, they affect your stress, they affect your sleep, and they certainly affect your skin. So it's all quite interesting. So sleep deprivation affects your long-term health. Mindfulness to me is about focus and performance. And what we're seeing in the corporate world, because corporate wellness in America in particular is a hot topic because they have no nationalized medicine. Workplace wellness is a very hot topic. And what we're seeing is, again, because of distraction and because of technology, people aren't performing as they should. They're not focused. And it's interesting in Asia, because I will go and I'm building some very big spas in mixed-use buildings where we've got hotels and shopping malls and arenas, and usually it's me and 100 men, you know. And, sorry men, I love you all really. But I'll be standing at a table and we're designing something, and they're all on their technology. And I will say, guys, if you don't stop, I'm going to go back to London. There's no point me standing here. And some of you have heard me say this before. And they all look very embarrassed and they all stop. But they're not focusing on what they're supposed to be doing, so their performance is very negatively affected. So, you know, that constant thing, if you've got your iPhone here, you've got your computer here, you've got your iPad there, and you're constantly going from one to one, and your mind is not concentrating. So performance, focus, and concentration are really key, and that's where we're seeing the importance of mindfulness. So we are introducing here some mindfulness treatments. And the reason we've done it, I think Riga is a great place, and I think Latvia, you're very lucky because you still have a lot of those core values where all this craziness of the UK and America and the Western world generally hasn't hit you quite as badly. So you have an opportunity really to address it before it really gets bad. So the treatments incorporate some breathing techniques. Do all of you breathe from your stomach? No. Does anyone, do most of you breathe here from your chest? Yeah, so you're not getting the oxygen. You're not getting the oxygen to the brain, you're not getting the oxygen to the skin, and overall, it's going to affect your health. So the therapists have been trained in visualization, in breathing. And the reason, as I was starting to say, sorry, I do go off on tangents, we found people in the cities in particular were coming in for their treatments, and they were so wound up that they weren't getting the benefit. So they'd be on their iPhone, and they'd be thinking, where have I got to be next? What am I doing next? And they weren't getting the benefit. So if you're uptight, if you're tight in your face, if you're tight in your body, then your muscles can't relax properly, your face is going to be very tense, your lines are going to be worse, all those sorts of things. So for a treatment to work, whether it's lymphatic drainage, whether it's pressure points, whether it's exfoliation, whatever it is, for it to work, we've got to put you into the right state of mind. And those treatments have been very well received in both New York and London. So it'll be very interesting to see how you do with them here. So I hope you will enjoy them. It's massages and facials, but it's a way of introducing you and calming you down so that you get the benefit of the treatment before you start. And then the third thing is anxiety. And we're seeing this more among the young. My generation don't have these issues because we didn't have technology and we're having to learn to use it. So for instance, my 6-year-old granddaughter came over the other day and she did a drawing and she said, Mimi, because she's French, she said, Mimi, can I copy the drawing for Mummy? And I said, oh, Lexi, I've got a new printer and scanner. I don't know how to use it yet. I haven't looked. She says, come on with it. And she walked straight up to my printer and my scanner and and she's done it. You know, so but my generation, we have to learn. We have a different mindset. So a lot of these issues aren't our problem. It's more the millennials, the teenagers, and this angst that social media and all the other things are causing for them. And I think we need to be very aware of that. So the mindfulness and the sleep, they're all connected really. And then the gut health and the general lifestyle issues. So that's where we're going. We feel for the next few years that's going to be really important. The other thing that's becoming important for us, and which is great for us as a company, many of you may know we have our own factory in England. We export to 60 countries. We're Soil Association, EcoCert, Fair Trade and Forestry Commission accredited. The whole industry is swinging back, the consumers, is swinging back to natural products. Now there was an era 10 years ago that if I went to New York and I talked to the editor of Vogue, she didn't want to know about naturals. All she wanted to know was about derm brands, doctor brands, scientific products, high-tech products. That has completely changed. It's gone full circle. And I think a lot of that is because of chemicals. We now know the damage that chemicals do. A few years ago, we weren't allowed to say in the industry that chemicals get into the systems of our body. We weren't allowed to say that through the skin. The skin's the largest organ of the body, as I'm sure you know. Now we know that they do, and I think you as consumers are much more educated about that. So as much as you're educated about what you eat, organically or naturally, or you want to know where things are grown, or where the cow comes from, or whatever it is, with skincare it's the same. So we're seeing a big swing. And one of the things that's really improved in the last 5 years is the efficacy of naturals. We can do things now. We can encapsulate naturals. We're doing triactives, which is marine essences, flower essences, essential oils. And the encapsulation and the serums are very potent, and we're finding that the efficacy and the results are as good as any scientific product. So inner beauty, how keeping all that inside stuff that I was talking about healthy, and then how your skin reflects that. And then, you know, back to the mitochondria that we were talking about. I've always, my whole life, talked about that we shouldn't be stripping our skin. And then, of course, I became quite unfashionable when all the high-tech treatments and the fillers and the plastic surgery and all of those things became popular. And now there's a decrease for the first time. I just got the data through from some research we did with the Global Wellness Summit that for the first time procedures are declining. And I think that's because so many people have had negative results, or they've seen negative results with their friends. And so I think everybody's much more cautious, which for me is a very good thing. Because what I've really hated about the industry just recently is the 25-year-olds using fillers and things that, you know, if you just look at the faces in the US of people who go to the top doctors who are 60 or 70 and they've been doing stuff for 30 years, it's scary. And I don't say there isn't a place for it, and of course it's each individual's choice, but I think if you start too young and too aggressive, you're setting yourself up for problems later. And I think the other thing we're seeing is, although everybody does want instant results, they want to be the best they can at every stage of their life, and so they're looking at the strength of the skin and the health, and they're looking more long term than they were maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Now, I could talk for ages. Maybe some of you would have questions, which would mean that I'm addressing your issues rather than mine. So, has anybody got any questions on the industry globally, on skin, on anything? I'd be happy to field a few. Dead silence. So you all know everything. Really?
If we talk about the size of ESPA Riga, currently, which is the number size-wise which we are standing in Riga?
Sorry, which is the...
Square meter-wise, size-wise, ESPA Riga stands in which position currently for ESPA products worldwide?
The size of the spa, is it 5, where is it? Is it 5,000 square meters? 3.5. 3.5, okay.
When we opened, we were number 1.
In the world? No. I would say that it depends how you position. It depends how you position. So from my personal view, my biggest spa is 10,000 square meters in Singapore, but it's in a crazy place with 7 hotels and casinos and goodness knows what. So you can't compare it. And then my spa in London is 3.5, my flagship in London is 3,500 square meters. There aren't that many spas of that size, but I think rather than size is quality, and I'm not bullshitting, I really think the quality here is very good. And as I started off by saying, the therapists are so well qualified. The other thing, and I said this, I was chairman of the Global Wellness Summit this year in Austria, and I said that in Latvia, Estonia, Croatia, most of the Baltic regions, the training is still much better than in America or the UK or many of those places. So the quality of your therapists is much better generally than all over the world. I would say out of spas globally, you're certainly in the top 20. And if you think of the exponential growth and you think of things like Peninsula Hong Kong, London and so on, and most of mine in the Forbes ratings of 5 diamond spas, we had the top number in 5-star and the top number in 4-star. So, you know, ours is still the best. And I would say you're pretty close to the top. Anybody else? Yes. Yes.
I have 2 questions. So
Two?
Yes. First of all, thank you for coming here and for us having this great spa.
It's a pleasure.
Yes.
Do you want a mic? Can everyone hear?
I'm from Malta, so.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is, first of all, you as a person who is in spa industry, how often do you go to spa and what treatment do you make in ESPA, as I suppose you go to ESPA? And also the second question is, what do you think is an ideal picture how the regular woman who is working needs to, how often to go to spa, what will be the must-have in spa? Since you know.
Okay. All right, for me, at the age I am and with the knowledge I am, so now I had to make a decision in my 60s whether I was going to carry on working at the pace that I was working through my 70s. So now for me, my health, my fitness, all those things, my skincare regimes, all those things that I have to do. When you're 35, you don't have to do them. You know, you do them through choice or you do them for prevention. But when you're 60, you have to do them. So I don't often go to my spas because it makes everybody so nervous. And, you know, you can imagine that, you know, they see VIPs all the time. They see all the film stars, they see all the models and everything. They don't even think about it. But when I go, I know all the protocols, so they're scared stiff. So now at the age I am, I made my home into my sanctuary because I'm on a plane every week. So I have people come to me at home, and I have a sauna at home and a hot pool at home, and that for me is my real escape. The second question is more important because a lot of people can't afford to go to spas. My personal view is it depends on your skin, it depends on your stress levels, it depends on so many things. I think if there's periods in your life where you're going through emotional stress, it could be bereavement, it could be divorce, it could be prenatal, postnatal, there's so many stressful times in our lives, it isn't a luxury and it will make you feel much better. And again, back to the quality of your therapists here, you know, doing a holistic body treatment, doing breath work, experiencing the essential oils, all those things will make you feel much better. Facials depends on your skin, and it depends on your home care routine. I was lucky enough when I had my first business at 25 to meet a Czechoslovakia, as it was then, a Czech esthetician who made me start on my skincare routine properly. So ever since then, I have practiced a really good skincare routine. I use a clinical essential oil every day, one of ours obviously, but I think oils strengthen your skin. If you feel my skin at 72, I've got a 45-year-old strength of skin. Serums are the feeders, so if it's confusing at the moment, as I think the market is, serums are the feeders because they're so concentrated, we don't have to put water in them, so we can put high density of active ingredients. And moisturisers are the things that keep the moisture in. But every single person is different. So I honestly, the girls here will give you a consultation. Did I lose my mind? Oh, it came back. We'll give you a consultation for free, I believe. And I really suggest you do that because you change. Every 5 to 10 years, you change hormonally, men the same. And your needs are different. Now, I think if you look after your skin at home and you apply, that's the other thing, is applying product properly. A lot of people, they'll do an exfoliation and they'll scrub away and they're doing so much damage. Now, exfoliation is really good. The drier you are, the more you should exfoliate. I don't know if you know that, because it's very stimulating. So the oilier you are, the less you should exfoliate. And people often think it's the other way around. So exfoliation for dry skin, you can do it topically, but you don't go like this and kill your skin. Applying eye products, always from the middle here around and coming underneath, so you're not pulling. So application, and again, the girls will teach you, the therapists will teach you. Application is really important for the muscles, for not stretching, for not creating wrinkles, and all of those things. Facials, if you've got a problem, I do a course until you get the problem resolved. But as a maintenance, I probably only get a facial once every 3 months. But that's because I do my own skincare every day. I don't spend a lot of time, but I know what I'm doing. And I think if they, some of them are here, I think if they teach you and you get those techniques right early on. And for me also, I break it down into maintenance. So maintenance is sort of 17 years old to about 25, 26. Then prevention is then till about 40. And not using too much product. People are overusing product now. Generally, people are overusing product. But when you get pre-menopause, post-menopause, that's when you need masses of product. If you knew what I use now, you would die. So in the morning, I use one serum mixed with another serum with an eye product and a neck product, so it goes on. But you know, you get to an age where you need that. But the problem is that young women now are using anti-aging products that are being formulated for menopausal women, and it's making their skin needy. So their skin is actually aging rather than preventing. So you need all this education. So get your consultations, whatever you do. Okay, yes?
I have a question. What is your personal secret? I don't believe that using tons of products, even if they are best in the world, can keep a woman in such energy level that you have at your age. And
well,
how you do it, not getting, it's not, I mean, you look fantastic for your age, and it's, I mean, many women can look fantastic, face and skin because it's genetics, you know, and sun and all that. For example, my mom also, she's 75 and her face is perfect. But I'm talking here about the energy and that you haven't lost an interest for not only for life but for doing all that you're doing, like flying every week somewhere, talking to hundreds of people, checking their work, and being so enthusiastic about it. How like you must have a secret.
Okay, well we come back to the mind. Okay, so number one, I'm blessed because I love what I do. And it's a fascinating subject. It's not just skin, it's health, it's nutrition, it's exercise, it's all the things that I'm talking about. And because I also design spas, I work with amazing architects, designers and so on. So I am truly blessed, so I have that energy. But I work now hard at keeping the energy. So all the things I talked about, my food, I don't put junk into my system anymore. But I was very lucky. I had 3 very strong female role models. My grandmother was an entrepreneur. My aunt was an intellectual. She was head of German and London Most Authority on Goethe, Schiller and Thomas Mann. And my mother was a pediatric nurse and an entrepreneur later. And my father had lost his father when he was very young, and he'd seen his mother bring him up in poverty. So he was very into female empowerment. So I was very lucky, and you can do this with your children. I think you have to with girls more, because it's more natural with boys, is the empowerment of knowing they can achieve whatever they want to achieve if they have the right education. So I was given a brilliant education. But the other thing I taught myself from a very young age, and I think most people can teach this, is to be grateful for what we have and to have a positive mental attitude. It's very hard if you're born depressed, I know. And I know it's very trite and we can say these things, but you can teach yourself to get up every morning and think of the positives rather than the negatives. And I think if we do that through our life, you're always going forward. And I had the privilege 3 years ago of interviewing the Dalai Lama for 3 hours. And we all know what he says and we all know what he preaches, but I really took away, especially about the past. He says that if you have regret about the past, then you're angry. And if you're angry, that obviously manifests itself in lots of ways, that we have to let that past go. We mustn't have regret. We've got to get over it. We've got to get over the anger and issues. And then he says about the future, you don't know what's coming down the corner. And you don't. You go along, you have this lovely life, and then suddenly, boom, something comes and hits you. And I've had a lot of that in my lifetime. So I think living in the present and being grateful for what we have. I know it's easy to say, but I think I do it every morning. I sort of wake up, I do my exercise, I do my breath work, and I'm sort of grateful for what I have. And I know now I'm very lucky, but I have a feeling a couple of things are coming to hit me right now. I think I'm about to have a couple of big things hitting me again. And then you become resilient. I say to my team, do the hardest thing every day. If it's work, if it's personal, whatever it is, you wake up, you've got your own list. Do the hardest thing, because if you do the hardest thing, then your whole day is free. If you worry about something and you fret about it and fret all day and you avoid it and you don't do it, and you put it off, it's always preying on your mind. And if you overcome the small challenges, eventually you overcome the big challenges. So if you do the difficult things and overcome them, then you get more confident and you move on to bigger challenges. Is that okay? Good. There was somebody over here. Yes?
I'll try to speak louder. My question was more theoretical about the 2 issues. One is well-being and the other one is wellness.
Yes.
I know, well, maybe it's just me, but I think we're not so familiar, we are familiar with the terms, but we're not familiar with the differences or similarities between them.
And I don't think anybody is, so you're not alone. So we started out with the Global Spa Summit. Then about 4 years ago it became the Global Spa and Wellness Summit. And then it became the Global Wellness Summit, and now the whole discussion is, Should it be wellness or should it be well-being? And this is what I was saying, the terminology. I think this next few years, each culture is going to take time to define that terminology. To me, well-being is much more about lifestyle issues that we can deal with, you know, prevention, exercise, nutrition, all those things. Wellness is a little bit more medical, and we'll have to see. You know what's very interesting, because I work so much with doctors, they are beginning to believe in complementary medicine. So integrative medicine for me is the way forward for the whole world, really. And now people are beginning to talk about it. So these things happen and they grow. And with social media now and technology, things, when trends start, they go really fast. So what we find with the Global Wellness Summit is there's 500 experts from around the world. It's invitation only. So if you like, it's a think tank. And we do round tables. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but at least it's progress in how everyone's thinking. So I think well-being and wellness well-being will be more appropriate to SPA, and wellness maybe a little bit more to the medical world. I think the medical side will come away and stand alone because it's unregulated and it's very dangerous. And I think that's one of the reasons for the decline at the moment, is because it's unregulated. Things like fillers and lasers, which are so dangerous in cosmetic surgery, and now fat freezing is so big, and I've seen some horrendous, you know, I don't know if you know with fat freezing, it's one of the biggest trends in Europe and America at the moment. It's absolutely brilliant, and I've seen brilliant results, and I've always been tempted to do it, because basically they freeze the fat cells so they don't fill up again. But then what's happening is people are putting on weight and it's going elsewhere. So you end up losing your stomach and getting great big thighs. You know, so it's, all these things are so new and untested that I think we're going through an evolution. But it's an interesting stage for the industry. Yes?
I can just explain a little bit. Yeah. I can just explain a little bit from psychology part. Well-being, it's translated in Latvian as labizjūta, and it's some 5-6 years ago, there have been some master works on well-being in Latvian. And yeah, it's more about lifestyle, and well-being, it's like you have your health, your family, your work, your education, all the
Emotions.
Stuff. Emotions, everything, yeah, well-being.
And I think emotions now, I'll be a little bit controversial and say the wrong thing, I'm sure. But what we're finding in some countries is touch has gone. You know, people aren't touching, they're not hugging. I mean, other places they're hugging too much. But there's a lot of places where they're not hugging and they're not touching, and people have no connection with each other. And because of social media, one of the trends that we're foreseeing is loneliness is going to be one of the biggest trends in the future. 80% of the world are going to be living in cities by 2030. The single market is exponential growth. The single dwelling is exponential growth. The single age, so my generation living on their own, is exponential growth. And all those things are going to make loneliness a big subject. Then the 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds aren't having sex because they're too busy. So you're both professional people, you come home, you're too tired to have sex. You know, so there's another emotional connection that's going all over the place. Internet dating, you don't know who you're meeting or what you're doing. There's a whole psychology, and I'm sure that's probably where you're coming from. But we're seeing that emotional problem in society, more so in certain countries. Any more? Yes?
At the start of your talk, you mentioned mindfulness. And
Yes.
I was wondering, how do you practice mindfulness in your day-to-day life?
Well, when I got here yesterday and I'd lost my suitcase with my Chanel bag and my Anya Hindmarsh bag and my Chloe shoes and my £1,000 top and all that stuff, I just thought, oh, what the hell? You know, I know what I'm talking about. You will like me if I just am honest. What does it matter what I'm wearing? And, you know, but mindfulness, I think it's a lot to do with breath work. Oh, that was me being flippant, I'm sorry. But I think what I do whenever I'm stressed is I breathe. And I breathe through my stomach, and that's what we have to learn to do. Or I'm always doing it on planes. I whoosh, like whoosh, So yoga nidra is the alternative nostrils breathing, which we are also very keen on. And I think teaching breath work, I've been doing it for years. I've been doing it for 40 years, so I do it without thinking. But I think going and meditating in a room with a Buddha isn't necessary because it's hard for a lot of us. So one of the thinkings behind the treatments was most people find it very difficult to meditate. You put a guy who's busy, and you put him sitting on the floor, he just can't sit still. Michael tells me he's meditating. I'm going to get him to do a demonstration. So it's more, if you do guided meditation, so either taking a colour or putting yourself in your favourite place, it makes it easier because you have to focus on the voice of the therapist. So it's an introduction. So what we've done with the mindfulness treatments is really an introduction to breath work and refocusing. But it is about focus, and it's about clarity, and being able to clear all the crap, that you're bombarded with from work, from children, from partners, from the environment, from all that, and doing the things you really want to, and the things that are productive. Yes? Good. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
What's the future of the spa industry and ESPA specifically?
Well, I was hoping I'd kind of describe that.
Well, what's
So,
for ESPA specifically? What's the future for ESPA?
So let's answer the first one a little bit. I think the market is going to segregate a lot now, more than ever, because I think we've had this exponential growth. Everybody's got a spa, whether it's a little pool with 2 bikes and 1 treatment room. So, which is why everyone's looking for new terminology. I think spas got bigger and bigger, and then obviously owners didn't see the returns, or things were badly run, or whatever it was. So now we still have a lot of trophy spas, but those are usually owners wanting them, and I'm very clear with them about return on investment when they're big. I think you're going to find what I call amenity spas with business hotels that'll just be back to the pool and the gym, not even the pool probably, the gym and maybe a few massage rooms, because 60% of the business globally in every spa is massage. However you try to market it, it comes back that everybody wants massage, 60%. All these things I've been talking about, I think the bigger spas and the more well-being spas, you'll see much more about nutrition, gut health and all those things that I was talking about. More on personal training, because as the population ages, people have very individual needs. So what we're finding is the regular hotel gym with masses of equipment is kind of declining because people want individual training because they might have got an injury or they might have had an accident or they might just be getting older, so they want a personal trainer who can address them on an individual basis. The other thing we're seeing with some visionary hotels, not many, is the integration of the two. So you no longer will have a hotel and spa. The whole thing will be integrated. So the food will be a very big part of well-being or wellness. The rooms and how we're doing it with one and only a little bit. But they're smaller, it's easier, they're resorts, the people are there for longer. And then we've got under construction wellness destinations. Do you know Miraval in Arizona? Yeah. So for those of you who don't, Miraval's called Life in Balance, and it's in the desert in Arizona. And it is not medical, it's purely about enjoyment and happiness and relaxation and a lot of hiking and a lot of exercise. So it's not pretending to be a medical weight loss place. It's much more about people who are burnt out or people who need to relax. I think we'll see more of that. So wellness destinations that aren't hotels, so where they're looking at the structure of the hotel, instead of having a hotel manager, they're having a wellness director, and the hotel manager is the head of department. Like all the other, sorry guys. So you've got your F&B manager, but you've got your spa manager, you've got your wellness manager, but you've got an overall person who's looking at the food and the mind and the emotions and all of those things. So that will be a trend. I've got about 4 under construction, 1 in Florida, 1 in Doha, one in Asia and one in England, of all places. So I think that will be a trend going forward as well. And we're very involved in all aspects of it. So we've got a lot of hotels that just want their spas, you know, as an amenity. But definitely it's going more to well-being. And I think hotels are having... Yes?
The first one is about your physical activities. What do you try to do? Some exercise, what do you do on a regular basis? And the other one is about your time planning. How do you manage? Do you have some digital schedule or you write down with pen? Like you have some...
Okay, physical activity I now have to do. So in my pool that I built at home, I have the aqua rider, the bike, because I find exercising in water is fantastic for the body. It takes the stress out of the body. So if I work out in the gym now, I always ache a little bit. I mean, that's healthy, that's fine. But in water, I can work out quite hard and I don't feel it. In the morning, I do, when I wake up with my breath work, I do mobility exercise, because again, when you get to this age, things like your hips and your knees and all that stuff. So I do a lot of yoga-type stretching and those things. And I work with weights, because I think as you get older, you know, they say use it or lose it with muscle, and I really think that's true. It was interesting, I moved house after 35 years, and I didn't have a trainer, and I didn't have my gym, and I really, in 6 months, went back. It took me a year to get my fitness back. So that was... So yeah, now I have to do it. But during my life, I played hockey, you know, for Surrey, and I've always been sporty, but spasmodically, now I have to do it. It's a different thing. Sorry, what was your second question?
The second question was about how do you plan your time?
Oh, time management.
Priorities.
Yes. I'm ruthless about it. So to me, urgent and important. So this is back to technology. Everything is urgent. Hardly anything's important. So you do the important things. I have an action list, and every morning I take 10 minutes and I prioritize, and I do what I said earlier. I do the hardest things and the most important things first. I'm very ruthless in my time. I can do in 20 minutes what used to take me 3 hours, so I can speed read contracts and things like that. I work on planes. I say that. If it's a 12-hour flight, I work a third, I sleep a third, and I watch movies for a third. I never leave a meeting without doing my notes, because, you know, if you're moving fast in life, and you go from one thing to another, you think you remember, but actually when you go back to it, so I always make notes. I'm not over-techy, but I have to be techy, because you know, I'm working in Asia and America and all over the world, so different time zones. But I still, with design, draw. So I'll still use paper. And creatively, it's interesting, my son, who's 51, is 6'4", very glamorous, very handsome, and he's a designer. And he's very techy, uber techy with design, but he will still write and he'll still draw. And I find it very interesting. The most famous designers I work with and architects, they can take a piece of tracing paper on the table and you can tell them what you want and you can project it and they will draw it. But people who only use CAD, only use a computer, they do it in boxes. It drives you crazy. They haven't got that ability to create in the same way. And I think that's one of the things with technology we've got to be careful about, is creativity. Yes?
Just one question. What do you think about fitness? Not just fitness.
No, I think face fitness is brilliant. And I think, so I'm a great fan of face fitness. So, sorry?
You don't have it in ESPA.
We do it, you know, we use the muscles and the lifting and all of that stuff a lot in the facials. So our advanced facials are all about muscles and lifting and energy work through these. You know, your stress points are really your chin and your eyebrows are the two worst. We don't actually teach it. I think it's great. I think it's great. Yeah, save you 10 years. That's a good scheme. Yes?
You said that food is very important, and can you please share your diet tips? Do you eat any superfoods, and what is your opinion on eating or not eating meat? And
Okay.
also veganism, diet.
Okay, interestingly, I'm working with nutritionists at the moment at King's College London, where they're doing research, a lot of research on gut health. So it's a personal opinion, it's a personal way, it's not necessarily correct. And you often find, different people have different needs, so it's a very difficult question to answer. Generally, and I've been going to the Maya Clinic for 10 years, and their whole thing is about gut health. Generally, they say you should eat 3 meals a day, not grazing. If we eat all day, the digestion never rests, and so it can't work properly. And the best way to be healthy is to have a good digestion. They say no raw after 4. Do you understand that? So no salads, no seeds, no all the good stuff, eat it at lunchtime, all the grains and the heavy stuff, because you can't digest it. So no raw after 4. Steamed vegetables, chicken, meat, fine. I eat meat probably once a week, but I like to know where it comes from. So I wouldn't buy meat in the supermarket. I like to know that it's grass-fed, where it's coming from and all of that stuff. What we found with vegans, and I was vegetarian for 6 years, what we find with women is they become deficient. However good they are with their pulses and their other proteins, over time they become deficient. So the general consensus now is you need your proteins, and it's very difficult to get enough. But this is a view, it's a personal view. I eat breakfast. I never used to, but I eat breakfast because I find, and I was saying to somebody today, that if I eat breakfast, then I don't get that sugar craving at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I used to go into the office, have a cup of coffee, eat lunch around 12 o'clock, be starving at 5 o'clock and start with the chocolate. So all these things, I think the body likes rhythm. And when you travel, it's hard. So, and fermentation, do you know about fermentation? Yes, some do, some don't. Eating sauerkraut before a meal, things like that. Yeah. So eating fermented foods, because again, you're getting that gut healthy. Do you agree with all this?
Sorry?
Do you agree?
Yeah. Yes, sauerkraut is a national product.
Exactly.
Everyone
Exactly.
uses
So you can have it before every meal. But lots of stuff like that. But if you're really interested, read a book on gut health. There's a very good book by Stephanie Moore called Why Exercising More and Eating Less is Making You Fat. It's quite difficult because it's in English and it's quite technical, but it's very interesting. You're welcome. But anything on gut health at the moment, because I think we're going to find that's going to be the way forward. And it's not faddy, it's very scientific. Anybody else? Yes, ladies.
Yes, my question is completely different to others, about treatments for people suffering from cancer.
Yes.
I know that in our country it's absolutely no.
Yes.
But I've heard and I read some articles that it's starting to change. On
Yes.
your level, do you know about some changes?
I do. And so we as a company are working with Wellness for Cancer, and we're introducing it globally. I hope we can introduce it here. Let's get the mindfulness and everything done because it's quite advanced treatments. So now the medical profession is changing its thinking. So for a long time there was a myth that, and therapists were worried about it. The reason they don't want to do it is they're worried, they care. So there was a myth that if you interfere with the lymph, you can make cancer worse, or you can transform things. The whole thinking has now completely reversed. So Wellness for Cancer in America have worked with oncologists to put together a program, which we're doing already. It's in the UK, we're doing it in the UK and America, and we're beginning to roll it out globally. And basically, you take an advanced therapist, so you have quite a few here, and you do 30 hours online training, which is all about different types of cancer, lymph node removal, medication, nails, all the signs, everything. And then they have to do a practical. And then we have an even more advanced one, which is called Nurture and Support, which is at Corinthia, which is at Glen Eagles and quite a few of our outlets. And one of the stats which you might like to know is that for those born after 1970, 2 out of 3 will be touched by cancer, which is really scary. And that's to do, I think, with food, with environment, with all sorts of things. But we as an industry have to address that. So we as a company are already. So hopefully, within a year or so, we'll be able to do it here as well. Why are you looking at me like that?
No, I'm just thinking how many years should pass?
No, we're going as fast as we can. And if where's Ego? She gone?
Because the first thing that doctors tell the patient, no massage.
Well, if they're telling them that here,
Yeah.
they're in the minority, because in the rest of the world now, they're telling them it's fine. It depends. There are exceptions, obviously. But the good thing about the whole Wellness for Cancer movement is that at least the therapists are going to be able to answer the questions. So, but 90% of those people should be able to have treatment. And there's different levels, and the last level that they're dealing with. So at the moment, the treatments are available to people going through chemo or radiotherapy, so all the way through treatment. But they're, for maybe the ones that aren't quite so experienced, we're putting together a module at the moment for people who are a year out. Because what happens at the moment is somebody is maybe 2 years post-cancer, and they feel they're well, and they go into a spa and they say, no, you can't have treatment, you've had cancer. And that's such a negative psychological, emotional thing. So we are definitely addressing it. Go on the Wellness for Cancer site. Google it.
Wellness for cancer.
Wellness for Cancer. And we're rolling it out globally. We're one of the companies that are working with them. But it's a global movement.
Social change.
It's completely changed. And we're working with
But
them.
in ESPA, you have these protocols with the diseases possible for massage and not possible. So
At the moment, if you
at
went
the moment,
in,
that's
if you
the
came in
cancer.
here and it says cancer, they would hopefully, in the right way, they would say no. And the other thing is, you know, they've always said, oh, you can do nails and toes. What they're not realizing is with chemo, people are losing their nails. So now there's whole protocols for nails. Certainly you can do facial and head massage and things like that. But unfortunately, until people are trained, they have to say no, unless you have a medical certificate, if you have a medical letter from your doctor. But talk to me if you need to, and I can give you some websites. Anybody else? Yes, Michael? So we better take a man. I'll take one. You have the last word, okay.
Don't be afraid, my question is not regarding your private life, something like this. I would like to ask about the ESPA products, because the same last month, they are available in a new appearance, and I would like to ask where they are produced, for example, who is your partners which are responsible for its development or something like this. Of course, it is not confidential.
No, it's fine. We have a factory, we have our own chemists. I head up new product development. Everything's manufactured in England, in Somerset. You're very welcome to come and look at the factory. As I say, we're EcoCert, Soil Association, Fair Trade, Forestry Commission accredited. And from Somerset, we distribute to 60 countries. So we have our own chemists, we have our own new product development team, everything. And we do a lot of forums. So one of the reasons, I think, from an R&D perspective, we have an advantage is we do 5 million treatments a year worldwide. So that means we're working on all skins, all cultures, Black, Asian, European, whatever. And we get so much feedback from our therapists. And then when we do forums with our spa directors, we do forums with the consumers, we do forums online, and we do forums, with the consumers and everything. So we get a lot of feedback as to what's working, what's needed. And there's a couple of things at the moment that are needed that we're working on. And I'm very close to new product development. I've been doing, 40 years. So I did Vidal Sassoon's first hair care range in 1965, something like that. And then I did a range for the ships, for the cruise liners. And then I did a range for the health farm. And then finally I did my own in 19. So I started in 1989 with this one. You're welcome. Michael.
don't want to have the last word, but I just thought we are coming to the end. So.
Yes.
First of all, thank you so much, Susan. It's great to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and for putting Riga on your map of flights that you are covering every year. And that's a fascinating topic. Wellness, mindfulness, and this crazy pace of life that we go through. And you mentioned quite a few things that you have sort of learned over the years in the industry. Now, what's the one thing that you would say to your 30-year-old self? What's the one advice that you would give yourself?
What would I give myself? Well, number one would be not to be anxious, because what will be will be. You can so one of the lessons I learned is you can only do your best. And somebody like me who's ambitious and driven, and if you're not, that's different. But for me, I maybe sometimes was overzealous, or I worried too much because I wanted to achieve whatever I wanted to achieve. Now I know that what will be, and you can only push so hard, and there's only so much you can do, and to have a big philosophy about it. And understanding people is really important. And you know what I said last night at dinner? One of the things I teach my team is when you're young and somebody's angry at you, you sometimes get very nervous, or you get uptight, or you go back with anger. Normally with anger, it's the other person who's got the problem. And I think if we learn this and we don't react, and we stay calm and rational and all those things, it tends to go away. And somebody asked me, one of the journalists asked me today, what would be the one thing in the world I would change? And it's difficult to say because there's just so many things. But I think if we were more tolerant and there was less anger and more negotiation, it would be a much better place. Anything else? You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody, very much. Please have the treatments. I'm sure you'll enjoy them, and they certainly will be beneficial for you. So thanks a lot.